What an unruly crowd. Hooray! Happy New Year. Welcome to the January 5th meeting of the Rotary Club of Louisville. I'm Walt Kuno, President, and Paul Harris Fellow. Unfortunately, to start this new year off, we're going to have a moment of silence for former Rotarian Kevin Conley, who passed away on December 16th following a stroke while doing what he loved. He was a member of our club for over a decade. A memorial service to honor Kevin will be held at Wildwood Country Club on January 13th at 2 p.m. with a reception to follow. Please consider donating to a nonprofit of your choice as a memorial to Kevin's passionate and lifelong commitment to the development and sustainability of Kentucky nonprofits. Providing our invocation today is Cliff Elgin, President of Cliff Elgin Consulting, member of the 1912 Society, and Paul Harris Fellow +9. Thank you, Cliff. Oh my goodness.
Thank you. This is a story from the Reverend Ron Blanchard. Once there was a boy who wanted to give a gift to a farm teacher who was going home. The child had no money, but on the day the teacher was leaving, he brought her a big, beautiful seashell. She asked him where he had found such a beautiful thing, and he told her of the one spot many miles away where such shells could be found. The teacher thanked the boy and added, "You shouldn't have gone all the way to get something for me." The boy replied, "Long walk, part of the gift." Rotary is involved with many projects that we call service projects. However, if you look at the other side of those projects, whether it's freedom from polio, clean water, mentoring students, enabling housing, or a host of other projects we're involved in, they take time and persistence. So let's always remember and stay the course, because our patience and our effort are important parts of the long walk that make up those gifts.
Thank you, Cliff. And now to lead us in the pledge and four-way test is Cindy Caudle, CPA and Vice President of Harding, Schmansky and Company, and Chair of our Finance Committee, and a Paul Harris Fellow. Welcome, Cindy.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now if you will join me in the four-way test for all the things we think, do, and say. Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and everybody, please be seated. Rotarians, if you have a guest, please make your way to the microphone in the back part of the room and introduce yourself first, and then your guests. We have a lot of guests today, so this is a great way to start the new year. I have three guests with me today. My sister Kathy, right over here, and her friends Lucy Stansberry and Melanie Tate. So all three of you here, Susie. Thank you. Rudy, I think it's you, man.
Brother Walt. I'm here today with my colleague Hannah Maiden, who has just moved to Louisville from our office in Grand Rapids to serve as a by-side manager for Call the Capital.
Welcome. Thank you. No elbowing back there, okay? No elbowing. There you go. Casey makes it to the front.
President Walt, Casey Baer, President and CEO of Waterfront Botanical Gardens. I'm not quite tall enough, but my guest today is Amber Halloran, financial consultant with Waterfront Botanical Gardens.
Hi, President Walt. I have brought Avery Guest. She's our grants manager for Kentucky Foundation for Women. So thank you.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Hello, Selma.
President. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Salma Jacinto Dominguez, founder and CEO of Green Health Cleaning. I have my guest today, my son, my wonderful son, Kenneth Dominguez, 18. He's a sophomore at Greater University. I'm very proud of him, and he's here today to connect with the professional networking. Thank you.
Well, he even decided to come back even better. Come meet this fine young man when the meeting's over. Hello, Chris.
Hey, President Walt. Good to be here. Happy 2023 to everyone. Chris Monzo, Sandbox Design. I had the pleasure of having coffee with Todd Bale yesterday. Todd is the executive director of the Sons of the Revolution, American Revolution, SAR. And he's been a Rotary member many, many years, many different clubs. So he brings a lot of experience and is looking forward to being a member here in downtown Rotary. So please greet him afterwards.
For those of you who don't know the Sons of American Revolution, it is a wonderful gym that's quiet on West Main Street. And if you want to do any research, the people there are so helpful. And the library is just one of those really cool places in town nobody knows about. Hello, Jack.
Hello, President Wolf. How are you?
I am great.
Jack Guthrie, retired, thankfully. Y'all don't have to put up with me in many ways. But it's a great pleasure for me today to have as my guest Sage Delaney. Sage also happens to be my grandson. He is a founder of Medici Creative, a production and marketing agency. He also founded Creative Connection, a nonprofit group that builds community for local artists and creative people. So, welcome to Sage. It's nice to have you.
Great.
Here
Thanks,
today.
Sage. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Walt. I'm Paul Bickle. My guest today is my sister, Nancy Caffel, who is Secretary Treasurer of the Louisville Film Society.
Oh, wonderful. Hello, Nancy. Hello, Jeff.
Mr. President, I have two guests today, a local filmmaker, Archie Borders, and retired architect and preservationist extraordinaire, Steve Weiser.
Yay.
Walt, Kevin Lynch recently retired, actually, it's about a week ago.
Congratulations. Yay.
So far it's working out okay. And my guest is Conrad Bachman, who started the Louisville International Festival of Films. He spent about 65 years in Hollywood doing all kinds of films. And he's spoken to this club 3 or 4 times, so we'll hear him again. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Conrad. You've been here before and spoken as well. Hello.
Hello, President. I'm Maura Payne, President of Kentucky College of Art and Design. And my guest today is Alice Alt, who's our new VP of Advancement. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Alice, for being here. Hello, Maureen.
Hello. Delene Taylor, Executive Director of the club. Not extraordinary event planner, so it is what it is. I have a bunch of guests to introduce, so buckle in. I'm going to talk fast. Okay, so I have John Thurman, please stand, Market President with Truist. Lisa Bottorff, CEO of Lantern Enterprises, and I believe you're working with HR affiliates on a contract basis. Okay. I have William Starks, who is the owner of G. Starks Realty and the mayor of the city of Coldstream. Remy Kareem with Bome magazine. Tammy York Day, CEO of Louisville Healthcare CEO Council. And Tammy happens to be our speaker in a couple of weeks. You will see a QR code at your table to register for that. Tanya York, her sister, is president of York Management and is a guest of our speaker today. Is Bridget here? Bridget Owens. Okay. Michelle Shelton, did she make it in? Okay. Kim Smith is here. She is the COO of Millennium Events. Ashley Parker is the owner of Parker & Klein Real Estate.
We have Jonathan and Caroline Rich-Tarsik. I hope I said that right. They own a bookkeeping company, CWR Bookkeeping, and I believe Jonathan works at Sazerac as a project manager. Is Quincy Nelson here? Did Quincy make it? Okay. Mary Kay Poe. Did she make it? Mary Kay.
She's back here.
All right. Mary Kay is a film producer and Louisville Film Commission member. Yes. Jennifer Branch is here today, and I apologize. I'm sorry, not sure who you're with. Are you just here to hear the program? Okay, awesome. Andrew Help, did he get introduced yet? Hi, and I don't remember who you're with.
Hey, Fred. It's all right.
Okay.
Hey, Fred.
Sorry, I am scrambling a little bit here. Keith Miller is here. I think he is a proposed Rotarian, so I don't count him as a guest anymore. Is there anyone else in the room that has not been introduced yet that is not a Rotarian other than our speaker?
Back in the back here.
Oh, yes. Jack and Kyle Hodis are with us today. Welcome. All right. Thank you guys for bearing with me.
Great. I'm so excited for how many people are in the room. Soozie, you're going to have to come back more often because we haven't had a crowd like this at Savor since the first day that we returned after the pandemic. So we're so excited you're here. A couple of things are different today. We're not going to have an announcer here for a little bit to try it out because we heard from our membership that said we want to have more time to network. So we're going to kind of cut down on all the announcements. They are, however, each person here has a set to take with them. There's QR codes there if you need to register. All the cool things are in there. We will continue to have Rotarians in the spotlight because this is about you, and we think everybody wants to know about that. So, first, our first Rotarian in the news, corporate member Alan Parnell was interviewed by Wave 3 recently about sharing 35 years of his trucking company, Mr. P Express. Congratulations to Alan. And if anybody see that, I saw that. So he pointed out and had the four-way test on a plaque by his desk, and he went over that with the folks that were interviewing, that he lived by that in his business world, and he gave that four-way test some of the credit. I'm sure most of it is his hard work and dedication. All right. Congratulations to Brian Armstrong on being recently sworn in as President-elect of the Louisville Bar Association. Yes. And I saw Rick King. Where is Rick? There is Rick. He's hiding. No, he's right in the middle of the room. So Rick was spotted at the U of L basketball game. He got his name drawn over a hat. And, I think everybody's asking, he won 2 airplane tickets to wherever you want to go. And I'm sure everybody's asked him if he could go with them. And I'm not going to do that, Rick, because I know you'd say no. Anyway, it's all good. So, once again, to allow for more networking, we're going to do away with announcements, at least for this first month, and see how things flow. All right. A quick little another announcement from the podium here. Tim Nicolosi. Tim, where are you? So Tim is in the back, a recent new member to Rotary, and Tim was a Peace Corps volunteer in Ukraine and Ukrainian as well, right?
Yep.
Yes. So he has been collecting winter clothes, and so far Rotary, this club, has donated and sent several hundred pounds of winter clothing for the terrible humanitarian catastrophe in Ukraine. We continue doing that, and so Tim's here. Thank you. And Fred Cowan is also instrumental in getting this done, but thank you to the club for doing this. This is just service above self for folks we'll never know about, and Cliff kind of pointed out why we do stuff like this, so thank all of you. So round of applause. Thanks, Tim. And now for something completely different. Please welcome Chris Manzo, owner and principal of SNDBX, and I'm sure I messed up that, Design Collaborative, and co-chair of the membership committee and the Development and Engagement Committee, to introduce one of our new members. Welcome, Chris.
It's
Sandbox, by the way. There you go. Just drop the balls.
So I knew NXS, but I didn't know what it spelled.
Well, again, happy 2023. It's good to be here. We've had a really great number of new members over the course of the last 6 months, and today is no exception. We have David Shadburn. David, is he way up there? You gotta come up and get your pen. David has been at Park Community Credit for over 7 years and currently serves as the EVP and Chief Strategy Officer. Prior to Park, he worked for over 20 years at several different banks throughout Kentucky and was president and CEO of 2 of those banks. David is a CPA and also an attorney, so be careful. He's been married for over 33 years, which is a notable achievement. Actually, probably the most largest alkaloid there. Absolutely. He and his wife Cindy have raised 3 sons, and over the last 5 years they have adopted 3 infant daughters, which is fantastic. They also have a grandson and granddaughter. David has been active in Rotarian for over 18 years at Horse Cave in Winchester, Kentucky, and has been instrumental in our West Louisville housing initiative. It is with great pleasure we welcome you to the club, and really glad to have you here, David.
I'm going to invite David just for a second to tell us where we are. For those of you that don't know about this, the West Louisville Housing Initiative is the Rotary's response to our racial unrest in Louisville a couple of years ago. And what it is, Rotary is raising $5 million for first-time homeowners in the 9 named neighborhoods in the West End for folks that cannot qualify for a conventional loan. What the hope is that these folks are a typical lendee would be a single mother that has 2 jobs, plenty of income to cover the loan, but not a good credit score in order to secure a conventional loan. And this fund of $5 million is evergreen, meaning as they pay it off, it goes back in for the next person. The initial $5 million should get between 60 and 70 first-time homeowners in West Louisville. It's a big deal, and David has been at the heart of it. So thank you, David.
Thank you all. Of course, this is a project of the Rotary Club itself. So it's not just one person who is doing this, but the entire organization. So where we are actually working on our very first borrower at this point in time. So we have a lot of commitments from funds coming in, and Park has received the initial outlay of cash coming to us. So we hope to have the very first loan closed here very, very shortly. So please continue to make those commitments, and let's see what we can do to help people in West Louisville. So thank you all very much.
Okay, right before we get to our speaker, Barbara, I've got the microphone so nobody can, it's uh-oh. So, just a little history lesson. I tried to rent a red carpet for today, and they wouldn't do it because it's the tradition for red carpets is for monarchs to be able to see where they're going. And in fact, King Charles, when he was prince, said when he was growing up, he thought 2/3 of the world was a red carpet. So we've got the red carpet going, and we've got Barbara in her red coat coming up to the podium. Yeah, just keep your day job, Walt. Thank you.
President Walt, I wondered why you texted me and said, make sure you wear a long red coat to the meeting tomorrow. You're crazy, sir. All right. Fellow Rotarians and honored guests and everyone who's with us today, it is my great pleasure and an honor and such a humbling experience to get to introduce this tremendous living legend who's amongst us today. When she stands up here, you're going to say, Barbara, I think you have to be a little bit older than this young woman to be a legend. Wait till you hear her story. So Soozie Eastman is a very long time dear friend of mine, and we call ourselves sister friends, and most importantly, lunch buddies. So, Soozie, we're back having lunch again together today. Soozie's a documentary filmmaker and a short film producer, and she studied and graduated from the University of Louisville and Chapman Universities, and she studied, she has an MFA and studied producing film and television. She developed this profound love and interest in inspiring all of us through motion pictures, and that's what she wanted to spend her life doing. She's taught at the university level, courses in pre-production, and she was the director of programs for the Humanitas Prize. and she was in charge of and directed the annual judging season, and then the award show honoring writers in television and film, as well as she created the multi-studio television pilot program for emerging and underrepresented writers. That is called New Voices of Humanitas. Now, after working in Los Angeles for more than 10 years, and congratulations, a lot of Louisvillians that go out to Los Angeles come back in a year or two. Congratulations for making it 10 years, Soozie. She, quote, as she likes to say, returned to her beloved hometown, Louisville, which we all love to call home, I might add, as I sell this city everywhere I go these days. She returned here to shoot her first feature film, and then also to take advantage of the Kentucky Tax Incentives Program. Let me say that again. To take advantage of the Kentucky Tax Incentives Program in the film industry. This is something that is a little bit of a secret in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, but people around the country know you can get money if you come to Kentucky and produce films. Can I have an amen? All right. Now, Soozie also focused in her film production here locally. She would have locally crewed production teams and extended her tenure, which included producing, you may be familiar with, the Flyover Film Festival. Soozie has also created deep relationships within all of our creative community, and she has no plans to leave. Soozie, you might be sorry you had me say that, because we're going to hold you to that one. And then she serves as the chair of the Louisville Film Commission, and she recently, first and foremost, what I'm so proud of you for, it was released, her film that she produced, Overload, America's Toxic Love Story. She's excited to work alongside a lot of team members to further the efforts of building the Kentucky film industry and infrastructure. And she's the founder of the 502 nonprofit organization called 502 Film. And she connects visiting production teams and crews with local resources and local crew members. And last is the best part, she is the proud mother mentor to her 4-year-old little girl who she brought to greet the newly sworn in chief of police on Monday on the federal holiday. Your child stole the show. Soozie Eastman, please join me at the podium. Rotary.
Chorus on that one. Okay, here we go. It's supposed to be every day I'm hustling. We were not supposed to go into the more hose part of that, but here we are. That's how we begin a Rotary presentation by Soozie Eastman. Wow. Queuing them up. All right, so Barbara Sexton-Smith brought the class, and now I'm here to bring the film industry to you. A little bit of Hollywood here for the Rotarians. So a huge thank you to you all for having me here today. I guess, can I talk through this? Awesome, thank you. So I had asked Elaine a little bit about what my angle should be here today, because I know many of you all are business owners and fantastic, important voices within the community, so I really wanted to make sure that I shared something with you all that would be of interest to you. Like, what in the heck about my life is interesting? I think all of us who wake up every morning, we go about living our lives, and sometimes we look in the mirror and it's like, okay, wait, we're entrenched with what we're doing. We don't necessarily see the fun of it or the excitement of it. And so I had to kind of suss out some little parts of my story that I thought might be interesting to you all. And so what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about my background, a little bit about my personal story, about my professional background, and then a bit more about Louisville and the Kentucky tax incentives. And then I think many of you all are interested on the recent announcements about the Louisville Gardens studios. So we can talk about these different parts, and then we get into the Q&A. You're welcome to ask me any questions. I really very much am an open book, and that is how I always have been and how I plan to be today, with less cuss words. I promise to leave. So I'll go ahead. Now,
let's start. I covered up this cuss word with an asterisk for you. So what I'm really going to focus on, and an overriding theme that has been part of my life since I was a child, is writing my own story. And I think that many people just kind of hop into life and they start on this trajectory and they're like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to go to finish my high school career, and I was supposed to go to college, and I was supposed to get a 9 to 5, and then I was supposed to get married, and then I was supposed to have kids, and then I'm supposed to retire, and then I'm supposed to die. That is not how I want to live my life. So, instead of waiting for the light at the end of the tunnel, I lit that bitch up myself, and I've been doing that since I was about 16 years old. So to share a little bit about that journey, I have to pay respects to my two very best friends that are there on the left. That is my mom and my dad. And even though they separated when I was only 18 years old, they made sure that I had a very solid foundation of love in my family. While I was raised middle class here in Oldham County Prospect, I would definitely say it is with a lot of privilege that I was raised, not only because of the color of my skin, because I have two doting parents, and parents who said, you know what, no matter what you want to be in life, be the best at it. When they told me that I could be a janitor, or that I could make coffee and be a barista, or that I could work drive-through at a fast food restaurant, they were not BSing me. They were saying, hey, whatever you do it to the best of your ability and make sure that you're honoring the one life that you have. So I'm very thankful, and I wish that every child were able to be raised in an environment where they were told that they can be anything that they want to be, or when they get to that point, make sure that they're living their dream, their story, and no one else's. So that is really the start of my life. Also, my parents really instilled in me focusing on the we and not the me. Because if we focus on the we and we all rise together and we think about how our family, our brothers and sisters in this life are also benefiting from the work that we do, then we're really not going to be focused on the dollars. Because for me, my paycheck is making sure that the people around me are happy, that I'm being utilized, that my community is being utilized. And so I'm very, very thankful that I was raised with the notion that we really have to serve the we in order for the me to truly be happy. Now, I'm also very thankful to them for buying a camera for me when I was younger. Now, I know that that's a typical story that a lot of filmmakers have. They got a camera when they were younger and they started shooting, but I grew up in the 80s, and so the camera that I was running around my neighborhood with was like these cameras that these news people have in the back. So it was not really an easy thing to run and gun around the neighborhood, making little commercials and little stories and casting the neighbors into something. I'm like, okay, now you're going to run around the house and you're going to scream at this kid. And they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm shooting something, just go with it. And now in hindsight, these individuals who are now in their 70s, 80s are like, I can remember when you were running around the neighborhood. And Brett Corbin, who's back here, a Rotarian, we've gone to school since first grade. He lived in my neighborhood and probably very much remembers me instigating lots of productions at a very young age. So flash forward to high school. That's the typical Louisville question. That's the bane of my existence. People ask me, well, where did you go to high school? And I'm like, well, I'm a high school dropout with a master's degree, because you figure out how the system works, and then you take advantage of it to get where you need to go and how you need to be there. So luckily in high school, I was actually able to get extra credits after I had some back surgery. So when I went back my senior year, I didn't actually need to be there. I only needed 1 or 2 more classes, and I had early enrollment to a college in New York City. Thanks to my parents again, you want to talk about privilege, college was told to me that it would be paid for, but only in New York City. And that was my parents' way of saying, don't just get out of the nest, go very far out of the nest. And it wasn't a huge risk on their behalf, because quite honestly, I was not the high school student that was going to be going to Columbia or NYU. So I settled very comfortably at the City University of New York at Hunsa College. That's what my mom made me call it when I would call her with updates. Here's your greeting from Hunsa College at 68th and Lex. So I started off there studying broadcast journalism, and much respect to our fantastic news family in the back, but all I was learning was how to write somebody else's story. They would come to me and they'd say, look, this is the beat, go out, capture it, bring it back in, and then we're going to tell you how to say it, how to cut it, and how to put it out in the world. And I was like, oh,
those restrictions don't work for me, but thank you. So I went ahead and I moved back to the University of Louisville because I knew that I needed to do some self-curation. I needed to figure out, who am I? What are the pillars of my ethos? What do I stand for? And what do I want to do with this one life? So thankfully, I was able to come back to the University of Louisville and have a fantastic time there. And once again, talk about creating your own path. I went to the dean at University of Louisville and I said, none of these majors speak to me, and you don't really have a program that works for me, so I would like to create my own degree. And they're like, okay, how do we do that? So I was like, well, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna have 4 majors, and then I'm only gonna take the higher level of these courses, and then I'm gonna go off to grad school and do what I'm supposed to do. Does this sound good? And they're like, yeah, okay, this sounds great. So thanks to University of Louisville for allowing me to craft my own program. I then took off to grad school at Chapman University out in Orange County. I had not only been to Hunter College for my undergraduate, but in 2001 I worked on a television show in the city. And as we all know, the devastating attacks in 2001 made it very hard for me to find a way to go and be creative in the city. I was very caught up in what had happened with 9/11 and was finding it very hard, even though I had been accepted to NYU. It was not the time for me to go live in New York. I needed to go to Los Angeles and begin my love affair with the West Coast. And I think all of us have been in a situation at some point in our lives where we make an assumption of what we think we want. And to be quite honest, from a young age, I thought that I wanted to work in film. And then when I got to undergrad, I thought I still wanted to work in film, so I made this degree program that would get me prepared for grad school. But you never know until you take that leap. And it was my first night of grad school when I was surrounded by 65 other students in the program, and we were talking our talk. We were all supportive. We had all kind of built the same lives, a life that's a little less conventional. Many of us came from places like Kentucky, where leaving to go be a filmmaker was very exciting or very risky for some people. And to sit there in that class on that first night, Monday night, and to say, I guessed correctly. That's a really great feeling, and I think that it would happen probably for a lot of business owners in here, people that have believed in a dream, entrepreneurs that have said, I think that this is what I'm supposed to do. And when we get to take that first step out into the world and we open that door and we say, oh wow, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, it's a great feeling. So those 3 years at grad school were very important in helping to foster that creativity, to find that support, to be surrounded by like-minded individuals. While I love to be around people that are different than me because I learn from them and I'm stretched and I grow, at the same time there's a time where I think it works very well to be in an environment where it fosters the growth through like-mindedness and through utter acceptance in the creative process, and that's what I found in grad school. It was for my graduate film project, my mom and I started back in the late 90s dressing as elves at Wayside Christian Mission and helping Santa pass out presents. And so when it came time for my master's thesis, I had something very outlandish planned. It was fully funded and ready to be executed. And I came back that Christmas and I had the blessing of meeting a woman named Denise at Wayside that evening. And she actually had been dealing with homelessness and drug addiction for about 10 years. And because of her story that night and meeting her and the hopefulness that she actually felt for her future, I thought, you know what? I don't want to make this outlandish mockumentary that I fully planned to shoot in just 2 or 3 weeks. I want to scrap those plans. I want to come back to Louisville and I want to shoot a documentary. It was called By The Wayside. And it was about our city's homeless population and the hopelessness and the hopefulness that exists within our houseless population here. And what I learned at that point was, I can pick up a camera and I can have fun. I can do things that are outlandish. I can make people laugh. Or we can actually utilize a camera and storytelling to inform, to inspire, and to motivate change, to motivate cohesion and understanding of lives that we might not ever live, shoes that we might not ever walk in. And it was at that moment where, as Barbara mentioned, my mindful media, that's really when I started becoming even more firm into my ethos of what I do on a daily basis. Sure, I'm outlandish. Sometimes I'm crazy and, unhinged at times. But in reality, deeply who I am is somebody who cares about community, who cares about my fellow humans, and wants to uplift them as much as myself. So I'm very thankful for a grad school program that helped me find my voice, that helped me find my purpose, and ultimately helped me create my first, it's a featurette, so we don't really necessarily consider that a first film, because it was definitely, I look back at that and cringe at a lot of things that I've learned. I think we all do that too, as we move in our professional careers, we look back at where we've been and we're like, oh, I could have done that a little differently. But we learn and we grow, and there's nothing to look back at with embarrassment. It's about how we move forward and change what we do moving forward, and so I'm thankful for that opportunity. So I call this one like the breaking into the biz slide, because what was very important out of grad school, and something that I've gone back to discuss with people that are beginning their careers, is I call it the Tarzan effect. So what I try to suggest to people that are beginning in film, and I think this would probably apply into many different industries, is that you want to get that biggest vine that when you grab onto it, it's going to shoot you as far into the jungle as you can go. And what that big vine does is it gives you momentum, it gives you exposure, and then you grab the next vine, and the next vine, and the next vine. And that's a lot of what making your career in the film industry is about, is finding that next opportunity, is utilizing connections. And so I'm very thankful that when I got to Los Angeles, I was in Orange County for grad school, I moved up. There's a gentleman named Michael Ovitz, and while that name might not ring a bell for many of you all here in the room, it is one of those names that is like a in Los Angeles. So my first job out of grad school, Ovitz found me at grad school and courted me and asked me to come work at his business. Now, he has quite a reputation in Los Angeles as being a tyrant. He was the former head of Disney and ABC along with Mike Eisner. He's the creator of CAA Creative Artist Agency, which is one of the largest agencies in the world. And he created packaging, which is how you sell a film. You have the director, you have an actor, you have the writer, and then you go out and you sell this package. And he's the one who created packaging. But what he also did was make such a name for himself in Los Angeles that when people would see his name on my resume, they would say, oh, you survived Ovitz. And I'm like, well, actually, he's a charming human. And then I was like, no, actually, I'm going to keep that part out. I survived Ovitz. I did. Now, actually, he was a charming human being, and I had the fun and the honor of handling all of Tom Clancy's international book contracts. Tom Clancy and he were best friends, so I started getting into the world of contracts. And oh my gosh, the contracts excitement. So it was a very fun way of finding out that I love logistics, I love budgets, I love timelines, I love hires, I love contracts. So it was a wonderful opportunity to be at this high level position and being exposed to a lot of things that made me say, okay, yeah, no, I know I'm doing the right thing and I'm being exposed to the right people. Thankfully, out of there, I was plucked to be head of development for a up-and-coming production company. And where I think I'm in here, the red pants up at the top left, that's my first day actually ever on a professional set. And my first day's job was to be Meryl Streep's assistant. And I was like, oh, okay, I work in film. It was one of those moments where it's like, I am really doing this. So I was pretty excited, and I'm still glad that I got that photo from that first day of being there. But what was happening those first few years between, again, Mike Ovitz, fantastic human, but some of the experiences that took place there, running the development for that production company, fantastic opportunity, going to Sundance, being on different sets. But again, what was happening is I put a couple little lists here of some of the things that I had to do as an assistant. This is about as Hollywood as it ever got. From delivering people's favorite gum or favorite pen to their house at 11 p.m. I had to put a healthy cat to sleep that belonged to my boss. Which sounds horrible. Yes, I should have taken the cat, but in California, once you find out the cat's being put to sleep, you're not allowed legally to take the cat out of the building. So instead, I just sat there sobbing in the lobby and giving my 2 weeks notice because I'm like, holy hell, what have I signed up for here? But it was one of those moments where you're like, I'm crying, but I also feel like I've made it. Like, this is what I want, right? This is what they write about in the books. This is Hollywood, baby. I'm like, oh my God, this is not the dream, right? I had meetings with people in their underwear. I helped bosses get hotel rooms to cheat on their husbands. You know, the stuff that you read about and you never imagine is going to happen to you. And I would come home and I'd say like, I'm living the dream. This is what I got my degree for. Like I'm helping make films. Like this is the dirty side of it, but it's kind of exciting, right? And I'm like, no, who are you? Like you're part of the machine and you're saying yes to things that are not you. And while I'm thankful for those opportunities and I'm thankful for the higher level people that I worked with that were fantastic role models, some of the dirty dealings that were going on were not what I wanted to do. And so I'm very thankful that at that point, instead of getting caught up with what I was getting exposed to and some of the opportunities I had, I looked in the mirror and I was like, this ain't worth it. And I think we should all have those times in our lives where we look at ourselves in the mirror and they're like, are we living our bliss? Are we living our purpose? And at that moment, I can tell you that I was not. And it was as if this little tiny angel came from the heavens and scooped me up and gave me this incredible opportunity to run the Humanitas Prize. Now, the Humanitas Prize is an award for writers in film and television. And there were people like, I think, do I need to, oh yeah. Look at that, cute. So it would be, on any given day, I would be working like, this is Steve Levitan, who created Modern Family, The Good Wife, House. I was working with people that created Law and Order, NCIU, CSI. I was now surrounded by showrunners, studio heads, people that were making decisions about putting conscientious media on the air because the Humanitas Prize awards films and television shows that talk about the human condition, that help us understand a life that we might not ourselves live. And that was exactly the world that I wanted to be in. It wasn't necessarily all PG and kind of like Pollyanna or Hallmark films. These are all different types of thought-provoking content that was out there, and I was able to deal with individuals that were the actual movers and shakers of the content that people consume every single night from their couches. So I was given autonomy to be able to create programs that were helping up-and-coming writers, underrepresented communities to get their shows and their stories and their voices on the air. And at that point, I was like, this is exactly what I want to be doing. And a very cool thing that I didn't even actually realize at the point was also happening is because the Humanitas Prize was a nonprofit, I was also learning how to operate an $8 million nonprofit. And as much as I loved my boss at the time, they were not there. So this was entirely my baby, my outfit, my assistants. And it was one of those moments where I was like, I could look in the mirror and I could say I was actually making a difference and I was doing exactly what I wanted to do. So I'm very thankful for that opportunity to run Humanitas, but what started happening when I was there is the filmmaker in me, the storyteller in me, started saying like, oh my gosh, that's great, we got another show on the air. Oh, this is fantastic, I locked another opportunity for another underrepresented, writer or a story, a voice that is not being served on television. And that felt great to me, but what was also happening is none of my stories, none of my thoughts, none of the things that I was thinking were actually getting made because I was too busy spending my time helping uplift other people in their career. And that's really where I started making a noted change. Instead of working for other people, that I started working for myself. And I'm very thankful for that opportunity at Humanitas because it allowed me that flexibility to be able to take about a year or so off to start developing my own project. Now, something that is kind of related but unrelated, because I bet you're all like, oh, we're eating a salad, she's about to talk about her fertility. Honestly, having a family, being a creative, living a full life, making sure that I'm paying attention to all of my priorities in life, it's very important. I want to be a well-rounded individual. I want to be a well-rounded leader. I want to be a well-rounded friend, family member. And I realized like, hey, you know what, someday I might want to have a baby. So I went out and I got tested by my doctor and I found out that I was infertile. I was maybe 32, 33 years old. That is some news. You're like, well, okay, I don't really want a baby right now, but I do want the potential for all things. Like I feel like the potential for all things are there for my career, things are all available for me with my family, but ultimately if this is something that I want down the road and I can't have it, what am I going to do? So I started deep diving a little bit about pregnancy. We all have gotten onto Google and done a deep dive, and then all of a sudden, like 2 hours later, we're like, well, holy hell, I didn't know that happened, sharing the article with everybody else. So long story short, without getting too much in my film, that night, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, I learned that no baby in the United States is born with less than 200 synthetic chemicals in their body. So babies that we visit at the hospital that we think are pristine are actually full of pesticides and flame retardants and plastics and fragrance. I don't want a flame retardant baby. So I started becoming very concerned with ultimately one day if I could have a child, if they would have chemicals in their body. And then I started becoming a little bit more concerned of, I wonder if anything that I've ever done has actually impacted my health. In reality, my dad, who worked around here in the region as I was growing up, was one of the Midwest's largest industrial chemical distributors. So I just found it was very ironic that it was kind of all intertwined, and I started saying, you know what? I think I want to follow this story a little bit. I don't know exactly how, but I want to follow this story. So I had very few mentors at the time, and that made an impression on me. Now, while at that time, that wasn't necessary for me to be finding, it wasn't possible for me to be a mentor to other people. I realized that there was nobody for me. And I kind of put that in the back of my head as I was building my brand moving forward. So I came back to Kentucky to fundraise and to work on writing the story. And when I came back to my old Kentucky home, it was really a magical experience. Within a few weeks of landing, I was given a fantastic opportunity to be an interim executive director of the Louisville Film Society, which then turned into a 7-year position as their executive director. I was able to help Mayor Fisher form the Louisville Film Commission in 2015 because we had a fantastic tax incentive here then, but it's far better now. And I was able to represent Louisville at Sundance and out there in the world to say, hey, look, this is a pretty spectacular place. Come shoot your film here. It started a growth in my trajectory that was very different from Los Angeles. I always say that this picture of me that the Courier Journal did when I came home, like I would have to pay to have an obituary in the LA Times, and they would probably make it this big and shove it on the last page. I landed in Louisville and they're like, can we take a picture of you and do an article? And like, you're cool and you've done stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, Louisville, thank you. That feels really special. I really appreciate it. And then Christy Brown hired me to produce Prince Charles' visit here. I don't know if you all remember when he came in 2015, but that was an honor as well. So what was basically happening is instead of running this race for everybody else out in Los Angeles, I was actually able to come here, engage in our fantastic community, and start accelerating the process of connection and of getting the word out about what we have here in our creative community. Now, this is Overload. Again, you're like, fertility and blood vials. My God, Soozie, thanks for the lunchtime presentation. But this is important to me because this is the story of Overload. What you see on the left, what I think a lot of people might not know, is that in every film, every feature film, there are roughly 40 beats. There are about 40 or 60 scenes that tell a story, but there are 40 beats of the story. And in reality, if you don't become a film junkie like this, but if you watch the film, you can start breaking the beats of the story out. So on the left, those are all the beats of my film. And that was one of the most prideful moments ever, is because when I didn't have a mentor in 2012 to help me write my film, I ended up trying to cherry pick different mentors from across the country who helped show me the way. It's very important that we mentor people that are getting into our industries. They need the advice to be able to get where we are and then go even further than what we've done. All I want for the next generation is to do more and be more than I've been. And the way we do that is by serving our community, serving people who want to know about what we do. Now, as part of Overload, I was tested for 119 of the most commonly used chemicals. I became a guinea pig in my own film, which is like, I am not an in front of the camera person, but I will be if I have to be. I'm not normally a speaker unless I need to be or I have to be. I would much rather be behind the camera, plotting and scheming, telling a story, or helping uplift other people or crew in the community. But this was my chance to actually live a story, to live an experience, and to go through this process. And as part of Overload, I was actually able to reduce my chemical load by about 50%. And not only that, but I was actually able to get pregnant at 38 and a half. So through my film, I not only finished my first feature film, I was able to find my fertility, and as somebody who's type AA personality, I finished my film and gave birth to my baby in the same week. So they are very much connected to me. And I actually gave birth to her early, and when I did, the NICU said, well, what did you eat while you were pregnant? Because this baby does not know that they're a preemie. And all I could think was, overload. My film did this. Now when my baby is kind of, overly communicative, very social, people are like, she's this or that. I'm like, overload. I swear to God, it's the 6 servings of broccoli a day. It had to have been something like that. That's the reason I did it. But this is where I come back to this again about being a mom, because it's very important to share that this again is all by design. So this detail, probably you're like, you want to hear about Louisville Gardens, not about your pregnancy. But in reality, it's important to share that there are ways that you can make your career, that you can choose your education, and there are also ways that you can choose to have a family. So I am a solo parent by design. My friend is the donor of my baby. He lives in Texas. He's never met her, all by design. And I share my baby 50-50 with the love of my life, who is my mom. And my mom owns 2 businesses. I have 2 businesses. And we are 50-50 on raising my daughter. I'm my mom's only child. My mom would have been fantastic having more kids. And guess what? 38 years later, she has another child. So it's not conventional. It's all by design. Everything we do can be by design about what serves us best, what serves our goals best and our life best and our ethos. And so I have a very loved child, a very well-adapted child, who is very much a part of the community, and that's why Barbara has seen her, and a lot of people here in this community know my daughter, because I think it's very important for her to be out in the world. So, just to speak about challenges, that's something that's also very similar for many of us in this community. I'm sure we all have hurdles that we've had to overcome. You're probably like, what the heck is this screen grab from Amazon? Well, 2020 was tough for all of us with COVID. But 2020 also served to be a very tough time for me, because right into early 2021, my film that was doing gangbusters on Amazon was deleted for no reason. I'm the only film that my distributor has ever had deleted. They would never say why my film was taken off of the platform. We have ideas of why the film was taken off the platform. And that was very frustrating to be met with, I've worked for something for 6 years, and now it's gone, and nobody can see it. And to be honest with you, it's fantastic to be a filmmaker, but if you can't see my film, I'm not a filmmaker. So to sit there in that moment and think to myself, who am I? What am I going to do? What is this? What's the future for me? And also, as much as I was loving running the Louisville Film Society, it was weighing on me that I wanted to start shifting focus. Love the ethos of the Film Society. There's a lot of programming and cultural support that goes on there, and the film festival that I was doing. But I really wanted to start focusing more on this upcoming film production incentive that was happening. So in the most positive of ways, we went ahead and took a step apart from each other with much love and much respect, and I started 502 Film. And 502 Film, as Barbara mentioned, is a nonprofit here in the community that when a production comes to town, we connect them with local crews. We connect them to vendors and resources that we have here in the community, because there are a lot of dollars in films, and we want those dollars to go to our community, to our vendors, to our restaurants, to our business owners. And so I have basically served as a conduit for connecting those productions here for the last year or so. So 502 Film, we launched in September 2021. And the thing is that I think this goes back to never being complacent and recognizing opportunity. It was go time after the incentive was created, and so therefore I knew that we needed something in the community that could be that concierge, that could be that voice for crew and for our film economy and for those dollars. So just to give you an idea of what 502 Film has done in just 2022, we've trained over 450 individuals within our Louisville area in order to be entry-level onto film production sets. More than 40% of those individuals have been paid to work on films and have credits on films. We have hit more than 80% of the Louisville zip codes in our training. And we have more than 75% of the films that apply for incentives that reach out to us for guidance and for connection to the community. So let's talk about our incentive program. I know that I'm getting close to my time. We'll switch over to Q&A and you can ask any questions that you have. But I do want to touch on this is like, what is our tax incentive? So basically when a production comes here to town, if they spend their dollars here in our hotels, hiring our crew, eating at our restaurants, using our accountants and our lawyers, they get 30 to 35% cash back through the Cabinet for Economic Development. That is the best in the country. I try to tone it down a little bit and say like we're very competitive, but in reality if you go head to head with a lot of the other states that have programs that are out there, we're best in the country. And because of that, over this past year, we have had $161 million worth of films apply for incentives, 58 projects, and that includes 6,228 local crew hires. I put a couple little pictures up here because it's also attracted the interest of Orlando Bloom, who shot here last year, of Ethan Hawke, who's shooting Wildcat. In fact, I'm a production consultant on that film, and we start shooting next week. It is because of those tax incentives, it's because of our businesses, it's because of our crew that we're attracting those productions here. It is only going to increase in the future. And so I think a lot of you all, so you can see that, also because of the tax incentive, we were finally able to get our own Women in Film chapter, which is very exciting because women are only 17% of the workforce in the film industry. So to be able to have our own Women in Film chapter is saying that we have growth, we have crew, we have numbers, and that's a very exciting time. We also, the middle shot is the wrap picture from Red Right Hand, which is the Orlando Bloom film from last year. And this is our wrap party, the 502 film wrap party that about 250 crew members and supporters came to this year just a couple weeks ago. And it was really fantastic to be in the room with so many people that have made a living working right here in the community. They do not need to go to Nashville, they don't need to go to Chicago or New York or Atlanta. They can work right here in Louisville, they can make their dollars here, and they can spend their dollars here at your businesses. So that's what we want. We want those dollars here. So I think that this is something that a lot of you are very interested in, is this recent announcement about the Louisville Gardens development. So I was very excited as the chair of the Louisville Film Commission to be included in these conversations as they considered this sort of investment in our community. As many of you all may know, that's about a $65 million investment. And what that's going to do is not only attract productions here to the community and dollars, but it's going to retain even more of our talent. So I'm very excited about this latest development, and of course if any of you have any specific questions I could try to answer them to the best of my ability. I was invited to speak at the press announcement as the Louisville Film Commission chair, but it's also very important to note that I am not the developer of the project, so there's only so much that I can tell you, and there's only so much of the timeline that we know right now. We've made the announcement, the intention is there, the investors are there, and we are very poised as a film community to welcome this investment in our community. So I have pictures of the renders so that you can see there is the facade. That is the original Armory facade, which is really beautiful. The investors are paying a lot of attention to the original facade and to the history of the building. There will be a museum as part of the facility. This is an overhead shot. I don't know that I have a laser with this, but where you see the green, so there is the Louisville Gardens right there with the red carpet in front. They found a red carpet. Nancy Tackle, I know from the Film Society, she has a red carpet because we played with that a lot. But to the left of it, you can see that is the former Kentucky unemployment office, and that is going to be turned into production offices. So you can see an outside production area as well for mock-up. This is, if you were to cut the facade off the front of the building, you get a little view into what sound stages look like. And for those of us that are in the film industry, when you see something like that and you know that that is in your city, it literally chokes me up. It is a game changer. We will likely have a TV show here. We will have a lot of opportunities here. It will not impact our culture negatively. It will only uplift us. We are a culture that supports the arts. If you think about the ballet and actors theater and the orchestra and the opera, we have motion picture filmmakers and storytellers here in this community that have voices and stories that need to be heard. And to have this sort of investment in our community gives us all that atta-girl, that atta-boy that we need to know that our city hears us. Our city knows that we are not a hobby, we are an economy. We have money and dollars behind us, and we have artists that very much want to stay here and keep their dollars here as well. Also, I can't tell you that I don't mind the homage to 502 Film over there in the corner of the soundstage. When I saw that, I might have teared up a little bit. And that's what a soundstage looks like. That's what the goal is for one of the sound stages out of the 4. There will be 4 with a square footage of about 40,000 square feet. So all that being said, is that one thing that I really would like to impress upon all of you that are here today is if you sit through the credits of a film, which some of us do and some of us don't, but if you do, they go on and on and on, right? And so if you're actually on set, you saw that picture, there are about 45, 50 people that are actually on set for a feature film, but there's so many names in the credits. And do you know who those people are? As I mentioned before, they are the attorneys, they are the accountants, they are the caterers, they are the business owners in the communities that surround these films. So what I implore all of you all to do today is to think a little bit about your business and what your business can offer to these productions that are here. Because I would like nothing more than to connect them to your business and bring those production dollars to you. So we do need, that kind of support from the community to say we would like to find our piece of the pie, our place at the table as well. So I welcome any of you all to reach out to me after today to discuss what your business could potentially do within the film industry, because those dollars are there and those needs are there. And so I would very much like to continue that conversation. So your business as a vendor, your business as a potential investor, if some of you are thinking like, maybe do films ever need money? They do. And so I can help connect you to those if that's something you would like to do. And also, 502 Film is a nonprofit, and what we do, the reason I started this as a nonprofit is because I want to serve my community. This organization, I want to live beyond me and belong to my community and the constituents that are here. So the support of our sponsors, which some are here today, a huge thank you to you all. We always welcome that as well, because it shows the goodwill that we have with our community and the support that we have from all of you. So just a huge thank you to all of you all for the opportunity to speak with you today. I thank you for at least feigning some interest in my trajectory and in my journey. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, not only here today, but in the weeks to come. I really hope that this can just begin the conversation for all of us on how we can integrate you into our film economy. Thank you all.
Folks, I know some of you need to get up and leave, which is fine, but we're going to do question and answers because this was just a riveting story. And I'll kick us off. The microphone's back in the back for those that need it. But I had several, and I'll try to. So, you were talking about not having a mentor, and then you were talking about what would you say to your 18-year-old self from where you sit today that might be beneficial to all of us here?
Well, I think, there are a lot of us that make big changes about who we are or what our focus is in life from who we were as a teen. And again, I do think it's the grounding that I had with my parents and growing up that I actually am not very different from who I was at 10 years old or at 18 years old or at 30 years old. So I would just say to stay the course, and I would say to live your passion and take risks, and believe in your own journey and your own path and in your own identity and your own voice, because ultimately it will be heard and it will be received. And so I think that's just really for anybody growing up, is just to say, keep your voice, keep your ethos, stay the course.
Thank you, and I'll ask one more while anybody's deciding what they want to do. Is there a question when you do these things that you would like somebody to ask that they never do?
No. Honestly, I think that I present myself as very open and very willing to answer any question. So really every question you can think of about Literally every part that I mentioned to you today has been asked, and I'm an open book. So no, there's really nothing that hasn't been asked, or that I would like to share with you on my own volition. But if somebody wants to ask something crazy, I'm here to answer it.
Hi, I'm Michelle Black-White. I'm not going to ask anything crazy. Since your film was pulled, is it available anywhere to see? Is there any way to see it?
Yes, absolutely, and I left that card off of here. Again, it's the we, it's not the me, so apparently I'm just not even here to talk about my own film. So yes, Overload, America's Toxic Love Story, it took an entire year to get it back out, but it is on Apple TV, it is on iTunes, and it is on Google Play for rent and for purchase.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you'll stay up here for just a couple more seconds, we've got the... Oh, I'm sorry, Fred.
Yes, great presentation. Thank you so much. It sounds like you're already doing a lot of this, so this question may be kind of not necessary, but perhaps you could expand on it. If you compare outside of Hollywood in the United States and the film, where the film industry is active, I know they used to make a lot of films in Georgia. I know New Mexico's got a very active film thing. What do we need to do more to help build the film industry so that all the Hollywood types want to come here and make movies?
Well, I think that, here's something I would say, the Hollywood types thing is actually a slippery slope, because I think there are a lot of people in the community that are scared that this will turn into Hollywood, that we will lose our culture, that we will lose our voice. And so I think it's very important that we always retain our own charm and our own beauty of being our city. And I think that Atlanta and New Orleans have actually done a fantastic job of attracting while still staying the core of who they are. And so I think that mentioning like what I did here today is to say, I would love to find a way to get all of you into the fold. And so that is really how we continue to grow the industry, is that we have more players in the game, that we have more people that want to invest, more people that want to provide their services for films, because the thing is that so many people in film know about the tax incentive. Rotarians might not have known about the tax incentive. And so that's really where I've been kind of out pounding that drum to say, hey, look, at the American film market, I went out there, it's the largest film business event in the world, and I went out there to say, hey, look, Kentucky has 30 to 35% tax incentives, come here. So this is really the change, has been this year where we can go out there and we can say far and wide, this is what we have here. So it's about all of us kind of wearing that information on our vest, letting people that are creatives out there know what we have going on in our community, finding ways to get your businesses and your dollars involved in the film economy. And I think that ultimately that is how we will continue to grow the foundation that is that voice and that heart of Louisville creatives and Louisville cultural support, that then when these big productions come here, they're becoming part of our culture. We're not becoming part of theirs.
Thank you. If you'd stay here for just a couple more things, for Rotary, we have a $500 contribution we made in your name to the West Louisville Housing Initiative that we just talked about. So thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you, Delene, for having this great speaker and the Speakers Bureau here that we have. We also have, door prizes, and so Susie gets to pick out our number, and so you get a ticket to the State of the City with Mayor, compliments of Barbara. All right, here we go. 487906. Hey, we got it on the first try. Yay! Yay! Thank you, Susie. And we're almost finished. If you need to go, Scoot. There we go. Oh. There we I don't know those words, so I'm not going to try. So next week we're going to hear from Bill Stone from Glenview Trust. His topic will be 2023 Financial Outlook, Inflation, Recession, and the Markets. Barbara Sexton-Smith will be presiding. When? Next week. Yeah. Somebody write that down for her. So, and now for Walt's Words of Wisdom. This is the new year, so I turned to some New Year's quotes that I often use and think about. This one's from Houston Smith. Infinite gratitude towards all things past, infinite service to all things present, and infinite responsibility to all things future. That kind of fits in Rotary's kind of ethos too. Oprah says, cheer to the new year and another chance for us to get it right. And then Albert Schweitzer talks about a man can only do what he can do, but if he does that each day, he can sleep at night and do it again the next day. And that's dated with the personal pronouns, but we all get that. From a roadside posted off a rural road, pray for good harvest, but keep on hoeing. Do what you can with what you have, with where you are. And Susan Cepeda had one that was pretty close to that too, so thank you, Susan. I don't know if she's still here or not. You're under no obligation to be the same person that you were 5 minutes ago. And now we welcome the new year full of things that have never been. And I neglected, when I was supposed to introduce Barbara, she is our new deputy mayor. And we are so excited about that. We have so many folks that are here as guests. If you're interested in Rotary, our Where is Rotary table is right here. I remembered, Craig. How about that? And we are adjourned.